Hello, lovely people. This is just an introduction or a reintroduction video of myself for the YouTube page, basically, because I actually originally started out the Instagram page, and now because I'm expanding out to YouTube, the videos are getting more reach, and people are like now primarily like, for the first time they're following me on YouTube, and I realize that there is not much information about me on my YouTube channel as to who I am, what I do, how do I know this information, how can we trust this girl who seems to know a lot about like their residency process and stuff. So this is for you guys who want to do some source verification as to who I am and like how do I know and like what are the things that I've been through and all of that stuff. So let's just get into it. Hello, my name is Meharish Ambat. I am a general surgery resident who is halfway out the door of finishing her residency. So I am currently still in the program as an acting specialist, basically because my residency period was from 2019 October to 2024 October, but I'm still in the process of completing in terms of my exams and certificates and stuff. So I have currently given my board theory exams and passed it, thank God. And I'm currently waiting for my OSCE dates, which are going to be in a couple of months. So, like I said, halfway out the door, still not a full-fledged specialist because I don't have my certificates and licenses yet. Still not really a resident because I've completed my training period and my requirements. Still working a resident level job because I'm in an extension period that is offered to us residents if you want to stick around and like, not go sit at home, because most of the time at this phase we can choose to resign because we've completed our training period contract. But then if we resign because we don't have our certificates, we can't really sit at home, and we can sit at home and do nothing, or and then like lose our skills, I feel. So I didn't want to do that, so I opted to extend, like accept the extension that they gave me for roughly a year. Basically the extension is till I can wrap up my exams and certificates and stuff, and then till then at least I'll have a job, I won't lose my surgical skills, I have somewhere to go and interact with patients, practice surgery, do all that stuff. So that's my current situation. So let's just call it half graduate. Okay, so I am currently a half graduate of the Dubai Health General Surgery Residency Program. Now, as you all know, back in 2019 when I got accepted, this was not called Dubai Health Program or MBRU Residency, it was called the Dubai Residency Training Program, right? So my journey of getting into the Dubai Residency Training Program and my background of that before I got in, and my last 5 years is what I'm going to be talking about basically. Hopefully I will not talk a lot and keep this brief. I'm not really good at that, but I will try. um Personal background, I am from Kerala, Malayali, based in Palakkad. I did most of my schooling in UAE though, as at least during my childhood years my family was based here. That's why I had a bit of roots in the UAE. But somewhere in middle school, because of certain circumstances, we had to relocate and go back to India. So I continued my middle school and high school in Kerala itself. All throughout I knew that, like, since childhood I've always known that I wanted to be a doctor. So it was always known that I'd probably have to pursue my medical degree or college in India itself, because obviously, like, in MBBS here, there are a lot of colleges and everything, but it's obviously more expensive, and there are certain, like, limitations in terms of finances and all that parents who work from other countries have. So I always knew that for college I'd have to go back, but anyway, due to life circumstances we had to go back much earlier. So I spent my high school in Kerala itself, and then of course the time came when I had to apply for medical college, so post 12 standard. So I think for a very long, like I said, I have always had a one track mind about being a doctor. Like, I think it's one of those things where when you're a little kid and then you're like, oh, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And a lot of kids say that. I was pretty serious and then I never let that go. So I just like clung on to that dream, and then I was just like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. Once I got a little bit more older, like 12th grade level, I knew that, oh, it's not just a doctor that I want to be. What I actually want to do is be a surgeon. I was very fascinated with surgery, and that's really all that I wanted to do. So I set out on my journey of Well, the first step of being a surgeon is obviously to get through med school, right? So I set out on my journey of applying to medical colleges in India. Of course, as you know, in India, situation is different. You have to attempt an exam, an entrance exam to get into one of the colleges, or then you have the other way where you pay like a hefty sum and all of that stuff. Anyways, I only had the first option where I had to get in through the merit list. Immediately after 12th, I tried getting in. I mean, I attempted. I didn't get enough rank to be qualified for a seat in medical school, medical college. So I was very disappointed, but that's how life is sometimes. So, as the usual scenario in India and Kerala goes, I chose to repeat a year. For those of you who are not in Kerala, this might seem like a very weird or like it's not understandable what I'm saying. I'll just like clarify that if you're watching this, anybody just clarify that. So in India, the system is like you have an entrance exam that comes once a year. So anybody who has finished their 12th standard can give it. There is no, basically you don't have to have a certain mark or a CV. There's nothing that they check. It's just that, oh, you've passed your 12th standard and you apply for the entrance examination, right? Now, if you don't qualify, like you'll get a score and you'll get ranked on that score. And according to your rank, you will get the choices of medical colleges. So obviously the higher the rank, the more prestigious colleges you can apply to. The lower the rank, the lesser options you get, or you might get in some college that's really in some outskirts and like that. There used to be multiple entrance exams back then. I think now they have unified it, but certain colleges used to have their own entrance examinations where you can write for that particular college, but then again the fee structure, everything is different. What I'm talking about is the government entrance examination, where you actually, if you get a good enough score, you get ranked and matched into a college where the fee structure is much more affordable for like middle class families like mine. So that was more or less the only option I had. I did attempt other things, like the higher prestigious colleges where also certain scholarships were offered. I wasn't smart enough to get into those. Anyway, so before I jump ahead in the story, the first time I attempted my, like I said, first time I attempted the entrance examination, I didn't get enough score to qualify. So usually when this happens, there are certain centers dedicated to just teaching you to crack this exam, right? They're entrance coaching centers. And it's a 1 year commitment where most of the time you just go and you live in a hostel facility that's adjacent to the teaching facility, and you do nothing for a whole year except study for the sole focus of cracking the exam. Now, does that improve your knowledge or not is very debatable, but their purpose is just to get you through that exam, okay? And how they do that is obviously by reteaching you everything. So the entrance exam is just basically based on your +1 and +2, your 11th grade and 12th grade subjects. So physics, chemistry, bio, but they just reteach you everything focused on like, okay, how much information do you need to get through the entrance? And then of course they test you a lot, like they keep making you attempt tests back to back to back to back till you get like, so like giving a test is like ingrained into your brain. It's a very hardcore kind of military kind of thing. So you spend a whole year for that, and then you give the exam again, because again the exam comes only in 1 year. So that's a little bit of side talk for those who don't know what the entrance and repeating is. Feel free to skip that if you already know. So I gave my exam, I didn't qualify. I repeated in Brilliant Pala for a whole year, away from family and all that, so the whole works. And then I did qualify, and I got into Travancore Medical College in Kollam. So that's where I did my MBBS. Now, because my score was still, in the rank list, I was still kind of high up there. Even though it was a private institution, I did get a really good financial scholarship to push me through, which was very helpful for me and my family at that point. So anyways, I got a scholarship. I went to medical college. I spent 5 years there. I did my internship in the same college. For those of you who are from here, you probably are not used to that system. Your college is very different from the hospital. For us, it was like the internship is done in the hospital, which is attached to your college. And every college that has an MBBS program has a hospital attached to it, right? So there is usually like everybody who does the MBBS in one college just does the internship there. There are a few people who opt to move out because of whatever reason, but most of the time, most of the people do in the same college, hospital. That's what I did. My internship as well was done in Travancore Medical College Hospital in Kollam itself. And yeah, so that's where I took my first footing as a fresh minted graduate doctor, I suppose. Now, in college, I was a bit of a nerd. I did score pretty well throughout all my years. Somewhere around in second year, I figured out that I need to get a big jump start because I knew I wanted surgery, and I knew getting into surgery anywhere in the world is really difficult. So I started digging and doing some research on the programs all over the world where they offer general surgery. I was not too keen on continuing post graduation in India or Kerala itself just because of this entrance hassle. Now, similar process exists in India for the postgraduate seats as well. That you have to write an entrance exam. Again, this is a 1 day exam, and if you don't do well enough, you have to wait a whole year, spend a whole year just repeating, studying for this one particular exam, and waste a whole year worth of life just for this entrance exam. Super stressful, and I wasn't really fond of that format basically, and multiple other reasons, of course, where I really wanted to look for other options like USMLE, PLAB, whatever. So somewhere in second year, while I was researching, and I always like had this sort of calling to come back to UAE because that's where I spent my childhood, and it always felt like home. So I was just wondering, do postgraduate programs not exist in UAE? And I just googled it because I knew PG programs outside are called residencies. So I just googled it, and voila, residency in Dubai, residency training program. Some very few scarce links popped up from somewhere. I caught onto that, tried to dig, found the website. The website was not much useful in terms of information because it's not the same website you see nowadays, and they were not very responsive back then. So I was like, well, it exists, right? It's established that it exists. And a bit of a, just a fun, charming story, because I was so desperate. I was researching it every day. And how I found out that this really exists, and, how I got a tad bit more information, is because I was searching for Dubai residency training program like an obsessive person. And I found a Facebook post by a newly accepted resident's dad. So this particular resident had gotten accepted way back then into the OB-GYN program, and her very proud father had put up a Facebook post saying, "Congratulations to my daughter XYZ for matching into OB-GYN. I'm so proud of her, la la la." And then there was that acceptance letter that he shared. So I just contacted him through Facebook, and I was like, "Hi, I know this is weird, but I'm really looking for information regarding this. I saw your post congratulating your daughter, meaning that she just got in this year. I would love if you could connect me to her and she could shed some light on the program itself." And he was very kind, very kind to have accepted and then given me the contact to his daughter, who I did get in touch with, and I spoke to over texts and Facebook Messenger and all that. And she gave me some information. She said, "This is a website, this is where it does, this is how it exists." She obviously did not know much about the general surgery and how it is, but she was like, yeah, so it exists. So I had some confirmation that something like this does exist, and it's something that you can apply to. It's not like a fake link or something like that. So ever since then, this little seed of an idea that this is what I want to try kind of got dropped into my brain. And I think from that moment on, all of my actions have just been towards landing that seat in the program. And wow, it's so long ago. I'm just like thinking about my mentality back then and looking at how far I've come now, and it's like mind blowing. But yeah, so like I said, I started digging for more information. I started emailing these people back and forth. I got some information out of them. Then I found out about the EMRI exam and the pattern and the MCQ and stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is what I need. And then I realized that, oh, you need to submit your CV, and I was like, then I was on a mission to make my CV strong. So this was like roughly around third year, I had an idea that it exists, and this is roughly the pattern that I have to go through, and the CV is important. So from third year onwards, my mission in life was to make my CV strong. So out of that, I kind of got into a lot of research, into competitions, into quizzes, worked very hard obviously to keep my scores up, got into the good books of my seniors, etc., got great recommendation letters from them. So did a lot of stuff. I know that like when you hear this, you're gonna ask about, oh, what did you do to make your CV strong? I will be doing a video on CV later, so forget. But this is again just like a personal video of mine. So I did all of that, and I got of course I made my CV strong and everything. And then back then, even now, you can actually give your MRE exam while you're still an intern, right? You don't have to wait to finish internship to apply for your MRE, provided that you what do you call it, when you send in your application, you tell them that, oh, I'm still waiting for my internship to complete, and by the time like everything is done, I'll have all my certificates and attestation, everything will be done. So you have to provide a promise letter. That practice is still accepted nowadays, by the way. So I was not the kind of person who wanted to waste a year or a gap year, because I knew that like to make a good CV, you should not ideally have any gaps. So I was like trying to find out if there was any MRE preparation courses. There honestly were none. I joined one preparatory course which was supposed to be for the DOH GP kind of examination, but they also were saying that they do MRE training as well. So I had nothing to go on. I spent the money and enrolled in that sort of class. And if you know, internship in India, it's really hectic. We are living literally in the hospital, in the interns quarters. We don't get weekends, we don't get public holidays, we are almost always on duty. So studying, like just taking a break to study or sitting in the room and studying, is not really an option. During internship year, you would have never ever found me ever without an MCQ book in my hand, in the lift, during 5-minute breaks in my rotation. People used to make a lot of fun of me. They were like, oh my god, this girl is crazy. But actually I was pretty crazy obsessed. I was like, hey, if I'm gonna do this and then nobody has done it before and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, I'm just like shooting in the dark, I'm gonna do everything I can. Okay, I'm gonna give it my 1000%, and then make sure that there was nothing further that I could have done to have gotten in. Little bit of difference in the MRE back then. Nowadays, as you know, you can only give an attempt till you get a pass score, and then you're not allowed to attempt anymore. Back then, you could attempt more than one time. Like there were 5 exams, you could give all 5 exams if you want to, and you could choose the best score and give it. And the fact that it's your second attempt or your third attempt doesn't really like add to the score, which is a good thing for me. Now, the mistake I made back then, which I guess it doesn't apply for MRE nowadays, the mistake or what I did back then was, because I was preparing during my internship, and obviously I was in India at that time, and the MRE exam is held in Dubai. It's a physical exam, so you have to be present, right? I had no choice but to actually take off from internship and like take a flight, come here, give the exam. So I had the travel expenses, I had the effort of traveling and all of that. Now, if again, when you go back to how the internship structure is in India, like I said, you get no holidays or weekends, and you just have like very limited number of leaves allotted to you. So basically, you get 2 days off, I think, in a month, if I remember correctly, like 2 days off. Yeah. So you technically you can take like a day off every 2 weeks. Now you can do it in 2 ways. Either you can like take a day off every 2 weeks, or you can choose not to take that day off, and you can compile it and then just cluster it to like a bunch, like 2, 3, 4 days, and take it together. So that's what I used to do, because I needed 2, 3 days to travel, give the exam, and come back, right? So I was just like not taking any leave at all, and just like piling them up till a point, till I have to travel. And then I used to travel, and of course, like I didn't want to waste a whole day traveling, so I used to do like a morning shift and then travel at night, overnight. And then I used to reach Dubai in the morning, and then like just like reset, study really hard, next day give the exam, and evening fly back out. So I lose only like 2 days in the whole process. So that was how difficult it was to actually do the exam during internship. Would I recommend it? Not really. But again, I was an obsessed girl. And a big shout out to my parents for like bearing with all of this obsession. Yeah, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. Nobody has done it. I have no idea if I will clear it, but you guys need to pay money for the exam, pay money for the tickets, drive me to Abu Dhabi. I don't know, do everything. And then they were like, okay, if you say so, you know. As I grew older, I realized how wild it was that I requested all of that and they just like jumped on board. Back then, I was just like, yeah, they're doing their parent job, so I have to appreciate them here. Anyway, so that's what I did. So I gave my first attempt. So as you can understand, it was very difficult to do an exam. So I gave that first MRE attempt, and when I gave it, I think I can't remember the exact score, but it was something in the 70s. Back then, just so you know, scores were really high, right? So scoring in the 70s was an average. Scoring in the 90s was like a pretty decent, a very good score kind of format. So I scored something in the 70s, and then I was like, hey, you know, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to score something in the range of like close to 90 at least. So I was disappointed and I was like, no, I have to attempt again. And like I said, even though I had already completed the pass score, and the pass score was 65, even though I had crossed the pass score, I could still give it again. So I convinced my parents to do this whole shenanigan again. I prepared again for the next exam, and I did the whole thing where I traveled overnight, stayed, went, gave the exam, came back. Then this time I got a pretty great score. So I got a score of, I still remember, like something like 88, and I was very happy. And even my coach of the exam, they were like, oh my god, this is such a good score and you will for sure get in and this is amazing. So I was like, well, that's perfect. You know, I'm not gonna do any more exam because of just the hassle of traveling, and the exam is expensive and everything. I'm gonna stick with the score. What happened that year was that I think the ones who are going to give MRE or have given MRE will know that in MRE there is usually a what do you call it, a percentage and a percentile, right? Now in my score, my percentage was good, was 88, but my percentile was still in the 70s, which meant that a lot of people, no, my percentile was in the, yeah, in the 70s, I think. It was low. So basically it meant that there were still like you know, like I don't know, it was percentile was high, sorry, which meant that the exam was difficult, meaning that a lot of people, only very few people scored in that range. So that would mean that, you know, my score was kind of like the high score of that particular exam. Now I had made a few friends because I went twice for the exam, so I made a few friends with people who were writing it, and I was in touch with one of my friends like that. So one of my friends, she gave the third attempt as well, and she got a very high score. She got like 94 or something like that, and her percentile was really low. So it was in the 70s, meaning that in the third exam that I did not give, a lot of people scored really high. So maybe the exam was easy or there were a lot of past questions. So I don't know what happened in that exam, but that was definitely a different level of difficulty than the one that I gave, which meant that because, you know, you could just use any score at that point, like you could give your first attempt score or second attempt score. My score now has fallen below track. Now I did not think that this was a big deal back then, because I thought, oh, because I gave a more difficult exam and they have said my percentile is really really high, which means that in a difficult exam I scored so high, they're probably gonna calculate that and then like consider it. So I was hopeful that I didn't have to give it again. I was super wrong. So they only at that time considered percentage. They did not care how difficult the exam was. They did not care if you were in the cream in that exam. They were just like, this is the percentage score, and anybody who has score above that will be called. And the percentage score at that time was like, I think 2 points more than what I had or something. So I think maybe I had 86 and the cutoff was 88, something like that, right? Yeah, so I was devastated because in my head it was like, oh, if I had given that third exam, I might have also scored really high, because I scored really high in a tough exam where not many people scored in my range. And the next exam, everybody seemed to have scored in the 90s, because 90 score was in the 70th percentile. So what the hell? Right? What is this like? And where do you go and complain? You can't. Like, what do you say that, oh, you made this exam difficult and this exam easy? You can't say that, right? Needless to say, I did not get called. I tried to keep hope till the last minute, even though it was very obvious that I was not going to get called, because my friend who did score over the cutoff was called from my, she did get her invite. Um, not the MMI, for the other interview, because at that time MMI didn't exist. So she was called for the specialty interview or whatever, and she let me know that she's going. And I had obviously gotten an email, so I knew that my score was not getting called. But I still was like, no, maybe there's just going to be like a second round of emails sent. I clung on to that hope with dear life, because oh my god, the amount of effort that I had put in was tremendous for all of this. And I really felt in the core of my being that I deserved it. Now that I look back on all of it, um, I'm a big believer of everything happens for a reason. And but you know, when things don't go your way, and when you work really hard for something, and because of like some unfortunate work of fate or very luck based thing, when it doesn't happen, when you know that you have given all your time and effort and energy into it, it's really heartbreaking, and you don't understand why this is happening to you. Of course, it takes time forward to look back and understand the bigger picture, and I'm really really glad that life happened the way it happened. But of course, I didn't know it back then. Anyways, back to our story. Like I said, I brushed myself off and I was like, well, I'm not giving up. I want to do this again. um, but of course, I one thing I knew for sure was that I'm not going to spend the next, and of course the next cycle would come in 1 year, right? So I decided two things. One was that next cycle I'm giving all the exams. I don't care if I score 100. Maybe if I score 100, if I would have stopped. But all I'm saying is I didn't care like how high my score was. If I was satisfied with my score, I was going to give all the exams, because these exams are very variable, and you know, you don't know which one is easy, which one is difficult. I'm just going to give all of them, and then I'm going to take my best score, I'm going to apply with that. That was decision number one. Number two was, I have more time. Let's spin this around, let's make it work to my advantage. I'm gonna add so much of like stuff my CV. And what I realized was, being an Indian graduate, you have this advantage that your license in India is so strong, like your MBBS license, that literally you can work in any department, any level of training, as long as the hospital and the team is willing to hire you, right? So I was on a mission to seek out the place where I can get the maximum experience from, like whatever, because my internship hospital wasn't like a very high volume center, meaning that I didn't really get to do a lot of procedures or scrub in for a lot of cases or whatever. So I did have a lot of gaps in my, what do you call it, in my training or clinical skills. I was determined to cover that up, or like fix that basically. So I looked for the busiest place that I could work. And I really figured that, well, I should probably get into emergency medicine, like in the sense, not as a specialty. Specialty was always general surgery. It was surgery basically. But I should get into like an ER doctor, medical officer kind of role, because there you learn all the urgent stuff, right? Or putting in a central line and calculating IV fluids and intubation and I don't know what. So just like get a lot of hands-on experience with a lot of patient traffic, and then add that to my CV. Be like, hey, you know where I worked in this place, we saw this many patients, I've done this many procedures, so I'm a great candidate. So that was my intention. So I did work for some time in a hospital that I was fortunate to have very close to my house, within walking distance, so I could just go and like walk, go take duty and come back. Again, duties in India are very hectic. You're working like, your shift is usually, you're working 12-hour shifts for 6 days, and the seventh day you get off. Uh, so it's usually like that. Again, I was back to the same old habit where I was studying around the clock. Always you'll find me with a book, always trying to do more MCQs and preparing for the exam. This time, the one thing that I did do different, which I could do different because I was not an internship, was that about a month prior, I like stopped working and I just focused on, like, basically just took a study leave, right? So I was like bombarding myself and filling myself with information and revision, and then giving myself mock tests and this and that and whatnot. And yeah, so I reattempted Embry again the next cycle. In between this, just so there's a bit more clarification, in between this, I worked in the ER, I worked in the labor room, I worked in the ICU. So these were the three jobs that I was doing, or I had done, like one after the other or simultaneously or whatever, during this gap year of mine. So my gap year was not really a gap at all. I really flooded it with experience, which was, I think, the thing that would probably have made me stand out the most in terms of CV. The other things that I did was obviously take part in courses. So I did an ATLS and that, put that in there. Anything surgical, anything that I felt like, would work well, I put in my CV during this time. And then as I had like planned, I gave all the five exams of Embry the next season. I think my second last exam, I got a really nice score. It was like 97 or 98 or something, like amazing. I still gave the fifth one because I was paranoid. Obviously, my fifth exam score wasn't as great as the fourth one. And I used my fourth score and I applied. Okay. I know for those of you who are listening to it right now and who have that limitation of if you pass, you can't repeat and everything, this may sound really, really unfair. But trust me, the fact that you have to spend five times an exam amount and give five exams, and it's not fair either, right? Because then again, based on luck, like I lost a lot of money and everything in the process, but some person who picked that one exam out of luck would have gotten it otherwise. So every situation is unfair, just to clarify. But like, I was determined to not let money or effort be the factor that I am declined from proceeding forward again. And so I gave my Embry a second time. I just realized that I said this will be brief, but this has not been brief at all. It has just been a very detailed journey. But I feel like you guys should know how I got here, okay? So that you understand the struggle of this all, and you understand where I'm coming from, and like why it's important for me to put this information out there and all of that stuff. Anyway, now the rest of it I'll try to keep brief. So that time, obviously, the score was great. I got called for MMI. I did preparation for MMI. I believe my MMI score was great. They don't reveal the MMI score anywhere. I got called for the specialty interview. The specialty interview back then was actually something new, by the way. So back then they said we have only two sets. There were only two steps. There was the Embry exam and there was the MMI. And then you either get shortlisted or not. Now, I was in Dubai obviously for the whole length of the exam season plus 1 month prior, because I didn't have to go back and come again because I was not an internship anymore. So I was staying in Dubai. I did my study leave in Dubai, and then I did all those five exams. So I stayed from December to March in Dubai, studying, preparing, all of that stuff. And I went back to work because, I didn't know if I'll get called for MMI or not, right? When I got the call for MMI, I came back, gave the MMI, went back again. This time I thought, oh, I'm done. MMI is done. Now it's either yes or no. I'll just wait. So I go back and I took a much more challenging job in the ICU and the labor room at that point, thinking that, it's either like I get accepted and I resign, or I don't get called and this is a pretty decent job. I'll just continue here. Then they decided that they're going to introduce something called a specialty interview. And we had no idea what this thing was. So back then, like, there was a group of people who had gotten called to MMI. We made like a WhatsApp group. So people were like chatting on that, and people were saying, hey, do you guys know what this is? Because they just sent us all emails saying, oh, you've been selected for the specialty interview. And we're like, what is this? Is this an OSCE? Is this a medical knowledge exam? What are they going to ask you? Nobody had any idea. So we just all walked in there completely blind, oblivious as to what is going to happen. We're like, okay, fine, they called us for the specialty interview. I'm just gonna go do the specialty interview. One very important point, I'm very sorry, that I missed in this 1 year gap that I did was I actually also did an attachment in Rashid Hospital General Surgery. Because if I was going through all of this effort and going to commit 5 years of my life, then I really wanted to know the team that I was going to work with, the environment I was going to work with, the kind of cases I will see. So I really wanted to see a trailer before I come into the whole movie. So I did do an attachment in Rashid itself for 3 weeks, where again, per my usual MO, I worked very hard, like, attended everything, tried to make the consultants remember my face because I was always around asking questions, etc., and got recommendation letter to be more clear. Yeah, so that also went into my CV, the CV and my application the second time, by the way. Anywho, sorry for the diversion and scatterbrain thoughts. So coming back to it, they called us for the specialty interview. Now, when they called us for the specialty interview, again, we were clueless. We went, like I mentioned in my first video, it was more like a job interview. They asked me a lot of questions like, oh, why Dubai? Why you're an Indian graduate? What do you think is different? What do you do with certain things? Like a usual interview kind of stuff. So they did that, and I thought I did a decent job. Then I crossed my fingers, and then I went back to India, and then I waited. And then, as what do you call it? As fate would have it, or hard work would have it, or whatever, I got accepted, and then I joined the program. So 2019 October was when I started. Actually, November, because there was a bit of delay in terms of something from their side, not my side. But I joined somewhere in November. And in my program itself, I feel like I have created some ripples as well. So I am still the only Indian graduate that has ever gotten accepted into the general surgery program. Now, lots of Indian graduates have been accepted into other programs, but in general surgery program, there has been till date only one Indian grad accepted. That's yours truly. I was the youngest academic chief. In my third year, I was chosen to be academic chief. There was a lot of shortage and everything backstory, but I'm just going to take the win. And I have served as the longest resident chief in the history of the program. So from third year, I was academic chief. From fourth year, I became all chief, like academic and admin chief combined to one. They made one post and gave the job to me. They're like, you're going to be chief. So I chiefed for 2 years, which makes me the longest serving chief in the whole of the program. And I'd like to think that I have done a really good job at it because, well, number one, they kept me. They didn't change me. And number two, because I have been told that to my face multiple times, that I have done a good job and I leave big, there are big shoes to fill when I get replaced. So yeah, so like I said, I don't think I just made it through and then be rested and relaxed and was like, hey, you know what? I got in. I'm gonna, I made a commitment to myself that if I got in, and I knew from the beginning, I knew from day one when people were very surprised that I got accepted because it was unheard of that a person like me who is completely unrelated to the system in Dubai got accepted to general surgery. When there were some other candidates who had some strings and pulls who should have gotten in, but for some reason they picked me. So I was a bit of a anomaly from then. So I had a big batch of imposter syndrome from year one. I was like, hey, if I don't prove myself, they're gonna kick me out. I don't belong here, or that sort of thing, So I did always try to go above and beyond. And did that give me anxiety and heartburn? Yes. But did that also give me all of these great positions and opportunities? Yes. So do I regret it? No, I don't regret pushing myself beyond my capacity at any time. So yeah, along with that sidetrack, I also was the vice president of the Dubai Residency and Fellows Association. So that's like around third year was the first time that they established the association, and they were like, hey, we need a couple of representatives. So I stood for the election, and then I pitched myself, and then I got elected as vice president. So I started in third year as well. Again, the first vice president, right, of the DRFA. And I would like to call it one of the founding kind of people, because me and the executive committee, in terms of the president, vice president, secretary, co-president, everybody together, we drafted the bylaws, we created the ripples, and we made the foundation what it is. Of course, they have renamed it, they have made it more official, a lot of things have happened, but I'm still gonna say we put a lot of work, we solved a lot of resident problems, we did a lot of stuff in those 3 years that I'm very, very proud of. Some of them have been diminished because things have changed. Like the logo we created has been replaced to suit the newer branding and all of that stuff. But I'm just not gonna think about that. We did a lot of effort, and that was all while this, insanity of being chief was happening. So, like I said, I wanted to prove myself, and I really feel that I did. So the point of this video basically is was never to just brag about everything that I have done or whatnot I have achieved or anything. I just really wanted everyone to be aware of my entire journey, as to all the struggles I have gone through, all the failures that I have gone through. In fact, I have actually put up a video a while back regarding my journey through failures. And if you're struggling with failure, and if you're struggling, in a period of time where you feel like nothing is working out and you're giving your best and it hasn't, life's not fair kind of mentality, then I would really recommend that you go through that video. It's a bit more subtle than this in terms of dealing with failures and stuff. This might seem like a big sort of, oh, it's all about the successes and the good things I've done, but no, there's a lot of failure that has gone in the background. Of course, I talked about all of it in the MRE, but in the MRE part of it, but there's still more, so you can choose to go through it. But why I spent like over 40 minutes, I think, speaking about my entire journey is basically because, well, you're here looking for information regarding the residency process. And I think it helps to know who your source is, and and all the stuff that I have gone through to get here, and all the stuff that I have gone through, not just to get here in terms of get into residency, but also all the stuff that I have gone through or achieved or set out to do and did throughout the period of residency. Because I think it gives you an idea of that life's not easy, and there are so many things that you might have to face, failure and struggle and obstacles and all of these things. And at the same time also, that I also want the takeaway message from this to be that nothing is handed to you on a plate, but you work really hard to get the stuff that you get. But once you get them, you don't just say, oh, I got it, and then sit back and do nothing, right? You still look for opportunities to do better. You still never waste anything that you have been given. Don't forget the journey that you have gone through to reach this place, and let that keep you humble. And if anything, let that be your fuel to actually help other people. As doctors, we have this inherent need to help other people. I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why most of us go into this career, is because we kind of want to help people. And don't let your patients be the limit of that. Help out a fellow colleague if you have a certain skill. I know that I'm good at just yapping like this so, and I know I'm good at typing up stuff, and that's why I thought, okay, fine, let's just put the information out there in whatever way I can, with whatever effort I can, to help somebody else. And I really wanted you guys to know who is helping you. It's not a person who had it all figured out. It's not a person who has had it easy. I'm just like you. I've gone through it all, and I've made it here. And if I'm here and I'm helping you reach here, that means that you can do it too. I'm not anything special. I have just worked hard taken every opportunity that has come my way, tried to turn every negative experience into a positive one after I spent 2 days crying about it. And yeah, and just made the best of what was given to me. And of course, never gave up. Never ever gave up. So yes, I don't want to keep talking because I feel like this video has already gone so long, and I'm so sorry about that. And if you have stuck through and watched it, thank you so much for listening to me yap. I'm so sorry that it has turned out so long, but I hope if you have made it this far, it's because some parts of it inspired you or motivated you or is helping you to get through something. And I hope that you stick around, and now that you know all of my journey and all of my part of it, when I put out information and stuff like that, know that, like, it comes from a very personal spot inside my mind where I really want to reach out and help people. And I hope that will encourage you to keep up with me as I go forward as well. Going forward, obviously there are going to be a lot of differences. And like, residency is obviously one step, and a doctor's career, so it's like, what's next? A full-blown surgeon job, a fellowship. There are so many things I still have in the future. I'm nowhere near done, and hopefully so is not my page. So stick around, and thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram, share it with your friends who are looking for information. Be kind, do good, and get good. All right, see you guys later. Bye bye.